The research station's claxons pierced through the eternal night of Europa, their urgent wailing drawing Commander Marcus Blackwood from his data analysis. The massive ice storm approaching wasn't due for another 3 days, according to their most sophisticated prediction models. Something was wrong. "Commander, we're picking up an anomalous energy signature entering our atmosphere," Lieutenant Hassan's voice crackled through the comm system. "It's not matching any known Earth vessel patterns." Marcus strode through the titanium-reinforced corridors of Outpost Omega, his boots clicking against the metal flooring. The facility, buried 2 kilometers beneath Europa's icy surface, had been humanity's most ambitious attempt to establish a permanent presence in the Jupiter system. Now, it might become humanity's first contact point with an alien civilization. "Show me," Marcus ordered as he entered the control room. The holographic display sparked to life, revealing a spiraling object cutting through Europa's atmosphere at an impossible angle. Its trajectory suggested either incredible technological advancement or desperate malfunction. The object crashed 3 kilometers from the outpost, its impact sending tremors through the ice that the seismic sensors registered as a minor quake. Marcus immediately assembled a rescue team. If anything, or anyone, had survived that crash, the approaching storm would ensure they wouldn't last long. Donning their extreme environment suits, Marcus led a team of 4 through the surface access shaft. The storm's leading edge was already arriving, ice crystals the size of golf balls pelting their reinforced suits. Visibility was dropping rapidly. "Life signs?" Marcus questioned through the suit's comm system. "Faint but present, Commander," responded Dr. Jameson, their xenobiologist. "Reading unusual thermal patterns. Whatever's out there isn't human." They found the crash site marked by a glowing trench carved through Europa's ice. The vessel, if it could be called that, resembled a massive seed pod made of some iridescent material that seemed to shift colors even in the storm's darkness. A section had split open, revealing a dimly lit interior. Inside, they found her. The alien was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin had a crystalline quality that seemed to absorb and reflect light in impossible ways, and what appeared to be fine, fiber-optic filaments flowed from her head like hair. She was unconscious but alive, according to their sensors. "We need to move her now," Marcus decided. "The storm's getting worse." They carefully transferred the alien to their medical transport sled, but as they began their return journey, the storm intensified beyond any previous records. Ice particles became projectiles, forcing them to take shelter in a natural ice cave. The alien regained consciousness during their temporary refuge. Her eyes opened, revealing swirling galaxies of silver and violet. When she spoke, it wasn't with sound but with light patterns that rippled across her skin. Their translation software struggled for several minutes before producing comprehensible results. "I am Nyxis," the patterns translated. "Guardian class of the Luminari, your world. It holds what they seek." "Who are they?" Marcus asked, but Nyxis had already slipped back into unconsciousness. By the time they managed to return to Outpost Omega, the storm had grown into something unprecedented. The facility's sensors were registering atmospheric disturbances that defied their understanding of Europa's weather patterns. In the medical bay, Dr. Jameson worked to stabilize their unexpected guest, while Marcus reviewed the data from her crash. The vessel's memory cores, partially intact, contained star charts and navigational data that suggested Nyxis had traveled from beyond their galaxy. But more disturbing were the combat records, massive fleets engaged in battles that spanned entire solar systems. As Marcus watched Nyxis through the medical bay's observation window, he couldn't shake the feeling that her arrival wasn't a coincidence. Europa's vast, subsurface ocean had been a source of scientific mystery since its discovery. Now he wondered if it held secrets worth crossing galaxies for. The storm above continued to rage, but Marcus suspected it was nothing compared to the storm coming. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for generations, but as he studied the battle footage from Nyxis's ship, he realized they might have gotten more than they bargained for. Whatever she was running from, whatever secrets Europa held, one thing was becoming clear. Their little research outpost was about to become ground zero for something much bigger than they could have imagined. The medical bay's soft blue lighting cast ethereal shadows across Nyxus's crystalline features as she finally regained full consciousness. It had been 3 days since her crash landing, and the storm above showed no signs of abating. If anything, it had grown stronger, with wind speeds exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. "Your facility," Nyxus communicated through pulses of light that the translation software now handled more smoothly. "It's closer to the beacon than you realize." Marcus leaned forward in his chair. "What beacon?" Before she could answer, Lieutenant Hassan burst into the medical bay. "Commander, you need to see this. Our deep scan arrays are picking up something strange." The command center's main display showed a three-dimensional map of the ice surrounding Outpost Omega. New data from their ground-penetrating radar revealed a geometric structure buried nearly 5 kilometers below their position, deep within Europa's ice layer. "That's impossible," Dr. Jameson muttered, adjusting the scanning parameters. "These readings suggest it's made of materials not found anywhere in our solar system." Nyxus's light patterns flickered rapidly when she saw the display. "The archive, they've found it faster than expected." The revelation sparked an emergency meeting of the outpost's senior staff. Nyxus, now strong enough to attend, explained that the structure was part of an ancient network of information repositories left by her people, the Luminari, millions of years ago. "My civilization seeded these archives throughout promising galaxies," she explained, her skin shimming with each word. "They contain our knowledge, our technology, our warnings, but we were not the only ones to achieve interstellar travel." The images she shared from her ship's database showed massive, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light itself. "The Void Collective," she named them. "They follow our beacons, strip worlds of resources, and corrupt our archives for their own purposes." Marcus studied the tactical displays with growing concern. "And they're coming here." "They already know, the storm above us. It's not natural. Their advanced scouts are already in the system, disrupting your moon's atmosphere to mask their approach." Dr. Jameson's analysis confirmed it. The storm's energy signature matched radiation patterns from Nyxus's combat records. They weren't just witnessing weather. They were watching the beginning of an invasion. "We need to reach the archive," Marcus decided. "If it's as close as our scans suggest, we might have a chance to access it before they arrive." The outpost's ice boring equipment, designed for geological sampling, would take weeks to reach the structure. But Nyxus offered an alternative. Her ship, though damaged, contained technology that could melt through Europa's ice in hours. As they prepared for the descent, Marcus received a private message from Earth Command. Their deep space monitoring stations had detected multiple objects decelerating at the edge of the solar system. Whatever was coming, they had days at most. The boring operation began at dawn, ship time. Nyxus's technology created a perfect shaft through the ice, its walls instantly refreezing into a glass-like substance that could support their descent vehicles. The journey down was silent except for the occasional groaning of ice and the hum of their equipment. 5 kilometers below the outpost, they found it. The archive resembled a massive crystal, its faceted surfaces reflecting their lights in impossible ways. Its entrance responded to Nyxus's presence, panels sliding apart with a sound like singing glass. Inside, holographic displays sprang to life, filling the chamber with star maps and technical schematics that made their most advanced technology look primitive. But it was what lay at the archive's heart that left them speechless. A massive energy core pulsed with living light, its surface covered in symbols that matched those on Nyxus's skin. "This is why they come," she explained, her own light patterns synchronizing with the core's rhythm. "Each archive contains a fraction of our power, our ability to manipulate reality itself, in the wrong hands." She didn't need to finish. The implications were clear. Their small research outpost now stood at the crossroads of an interstellar conflict, with humanity caught in the middle. As Marcus watched Nyxus interface with the archive systems, he realized they had hours at most to prepare for what was coming. The storm above intensified, and new alarms began blaring throughout the outpost. The Void Collective scouts were no longer hiding their presence. The real question was, could humanity's first contact with advanced alien civilizations also be its last? The archive's crystalline walls pulsed with increasing urgency as Nyxis interfaced with its ancient systems. Her light patterns danced frantically across her skin, translating into streams of data that Dr. Jameson struggled to process. Above them, the first Void Collective scouts had begun their descent through Europa's atmosphere. "There's something else here," Nyxis announced suddenly, her patterns shifting to a deep violet. "This archive, it's different from the others. Your moon was chosen for a specific purpose." Marcus watched as new holograms materialized around them, showing Europa's vast subsurface ocean. The archive wasn't just storing information. It was actively monitoring the moon's internal composition. Massive energy signatures pulsed beneath the ice, far more powerful than anything their instruments had ever detected. "My ancestors," Nyxis explained, "they didn't just leave knowledge here, they left a weapon." Lieutenant Hassan's voice crackled through their comms. "Commander, we've got multiple contacts breaching the upper atmosphere. Energy signatures match Nyxis's records of Void Collective vessels. They're not even trying to hide anymore." The archive's displays shifted, showing real-time footage from its external sensors. Dark shapes descended through the storm, their surfaces seeming to bend light around them. Each was easily the size of their largest Earth vessels, and the sensors detected dozens more approaching. "The weapon," Marcus pressed. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Nyxis's interface with the archive intensified, her entire form now glowing with transferred data. The Luminari discovered something in Europa's ocean, a naturally occurring quantum anomaly. They built this facility to harness it, to create a last resort against the Void Collective's expansion. Dr. Jameson's instruments were registering increasing energy fluctuations from deeper within Europa. "These readings, they suggest the anomaly could potentially generate enough power to," she paused, rechecking her calculations, "to tear a hole in space-time itself. A weapon that could destroy not just the enemy, but potentially the entire moon," Marcus realized. "Why would they build something so dangerous?" "Because the alternative was worse," Nyxis responded. "The Void Collective doesn't just conquer, they consume. Every world they take becomes part of their collective consciousness, every species absorbed into their hive mind. Billions of souls trapped in eternal darkness." New alarms blared through their comms. The Void Collective ships had detected the archive's energy signature and were converging on their location. The outpost's defensive systems, designed for meteorite deflection, would be useless against such advanced technology. "We have a choice to make," Nyxis said, her patterns now pulsing with a fierce intensity. "The weapon requires 2 keys to activate, one from a Luminari Guardian and one from a native of the system it's meant to protect. My ancestors believed that such power should never be wielded without the consent of those it might affect." Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility settle onto his shoulders. The fate of not just Europa or Earth, but potentially the entire solar system, hung on their next decision. The archive's displays showed the Void Collective ships beginning their final descent, their weapons charging. "How long do we have?" he asked. "Minutes," Nyxis replied. "Once they breach the ice, they'll detect the quantum anomaly. They'll either attempt to harness it themselves or destroy it, and Europa, to prevent us from using it." Dr. Jameson's instruments detected new energy signatures from the approaching ships. "They're deploying some kind of energy web around the moon. They're trying to contain us." The archive systems began to pulse with increasing urgency, responding to the immediate threat. Nyxis turned to Marcus, her crystalline features reflecting the emergency lights. "Commander, we need your decision. The weapon could save your system from the fate that befell countless others. But the cost." Marcus looked at the tactical displays, watching as more Void Collective ships emerged from the storm. Their own evacuation ships would never make it through the energy web now encasing Europa. Whatever choice they made, they would have to face its consequences. The fate of two civilizations now rested on a decision that had to be made in moments. As the first explosive charges from the Void collective ships began to penetrate Europa's ice, Marcus realized that humanity's first major interstellar conflict might also be its last stand. The Archive's chamber shuddered as another Void collective blast penetrated deeper into Europa's ice. Marcus watched the tactical displays with growing concern. They had minutes at most before the enemy forces reached their position. "If we use the weapon," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the chaos, "what exactly happens to Europa?" Nyxis interfaced deeper with the Archive systems, her light patterns flickering rapidly. "The quantum anomaly will create a localized space-time disruption. Europa's ocean will become a temporal storm, trapping anything within its influence in an endless moment. And the moon itself will remain intact but forever changed. The ice shell will crystallize into something impenetrable. Nothing will get in or out ever again." Dr. Jameson's instruments registered new energy spikes from above. "Commander, they're deploying some kind of phase-shifted drilling equipment. Our structural integrity is failing." Marcus made his decision. "We don't have the right to sacrifice Europa, but we can't let them take the Archive either. There has to be another way." Nyxis's patterns shifted to a deep blue. "There might be. The Archive contains more than just the weapon. It holds the complete technological database of my people, if we could upload it into your outpost systems. We could use Luminari technology to fight back," Lieutenant Hassan finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. They worked frantically, Nyxis interfacing with both the Archive and their systems, while Dr. Jameson and Hassan modified their outpost's power grid to handle the massive data transfer. Marcus coordinated with the surface teams, preparing them for what was coming. The first Void collective breach team cut through the ice just as the upload reached 60%. Dark, writhing forms emerged from the hole, their bodies seeming to absorb light itself. The outpost's modified defenses activated automatically, luminary energy shields springing to life around critical sections. "They're trying to establish a neural link with our systems," Nyxis warned, her patterns turning crimson with effort. "The collective consciousness, it's attempting to subsume your technology." Marcus watched as sections of their outpost began to darken, the Void collective's influence spreading like a stain through their systems. But where their technology merged with the newly uploaded Luminari systems, the darkness was held at bay. The battle for Outpost Omega became a war of information and energy, fought across computer systems and through the very walls of their facility. Each meter had to be defended, each system protected from the encroaching darkness that threatened to absorb them all into its hive mind. Nyxis worked tirelessly, her knowledge of Luminari technology allowing them to fortify their defenses even as the Void collective pressed their attack. The outpost's crew, trained for scientific research, found themselves soldiers in a war beyond their imagination. As the upload reached 90%, a massive tremor shook the facility. The Void collective had deployed their primary weapon, a consciousness bomb designed to overwhelm and absorb all sentient life within its radius. But they had underestimated humanity's resilience and Nyxis's determination. The outpost's crew, working in perfect synchronization with their Luminari ally, created a feedback loop in their hybrid systems. The consciousness bomb's energy was caught, redirected, and amplified. For a moment, as the upload completed, everything hung in perfect balance. The fate of Europa, Earth, and two ancient civilizations rested on whether their desperate gambit would work. Then, with a surge of power that made the ice itself sing, their counterattack began. The consciousness bomb's redirected energy surged through Europa's ice, transformed by the hybrid Luminari human technology into something entirely new. Where the Void collective sought to absorb and dominate, this wave carried a different message, one of unity and resistance. The dark ships above the surface began to shudder as the energy wave reached them. Their attempt to establish a hive-mind connection backfired spectacularly as the modified signal disrupted their neural network. The collective consciousness that had consumed countless worlds faced something it had never encountered: the combined will of humanity's individuality and luminary wisdom. "Their network is fragmenting," Nyxis announced, her patterns shifting through colors of triumph and disbelief. "The collective consciousness, it's breaking apart." Marcus watched on the displays as void collective ships began to drift, their crews freed from the hive mind's control for the first time in centuries. Some vessels crashed into Europa's ice, others fled into space, but the majority simply hung there, dormant. "We're receiving transmissions," Lieutenant Hassan reported, his voice thick with emotion. "They're thanking us, the freed crews, they're regaining their individual identities." Dr. Jameson's instruments recorded something else. The quantum anomaly deep within Europa's ocean had responded to the energy wave, its power amplifying their signal across the solar system. They hadn't just saved themselves. They'd created a defense network that would prevent the Void Collective from ever establishing a foothold in their system. The storm above finally began to clear, revealing Jupiter's massive form watching over them like a silent guardian. In the archive chamber, Nyxis interfaced one final time with the ancient systems. "My ancestors," she said, her patterns now glowing with a soft, steady light. "They didn't just leave us a weapon, they left us a choice, and humanity proved worthy of it." The next few days were a blur of activity. Earth vessels arrived to secure the disabled Void Collective ships. The freed crews, representing species from across the galaxy, shared their stories and technologies. Europa's outpost, once a simple research station, became the center of a new interstellar alliance. Marcus stood with Nyxis in the observation dome, watching Earth ships work alongside former Void Collective vessels to establish a permanent defense network around Europa. The Archive's technology was being carefully studied and integrated into human systems, not as a weapon, but as a tool for protection and growth. "Your people," Nyxis said, turning to Marcus, "they're different from any species we've encountered. Where others sought to use our technology for power, you used it to free rather than control. Perhaps this is why my ancestors chose your world." Marcus smiled, remembering the moment of choice in the archive chamber. "We're not perfect, but we learn. And now, thanks to you, we'll have the chance to learn from civilizations across the galaxy." The quantum anomaly in Europa's ocean had stabilized, its energy now permanently attuned to the hybrid technology they'd created. What had been intended as a weapon of last resort had become the foundation of something greater, a shield protecting not just humanity, but all species seeking freedom from domination. As the first representatives from Earth arrived to meet with the freed Void Collective species, Marcus realized that humanity's first major interstellar conflict had become something entirely unexpected, the beginning of a galactic renaissance. Nyxis's patterns shifted to a color he'd never seen before, one that seemed to capture the hope they all felt. "This is just the beginning," she said, watching as ships from across the galaxy gathered around Europa. "Together, we'll build something greater than either of our civilizations could have achieved alone." The ice of Europa glittered beneath them, no longer just a frozen moon, but a symbol of cooperation, resistance, and the indomitable spirit of free will. As Earth's first official diplomatic mission docked with the outpost, Marcus knew that the universe would never be the same, and that humanity was ready for whatever challenges awaited them among the stars.